welcome to our panelists and our audience in this virtual paper platform where we are going to talk and discuss and try to understand the issue and the impact of COVID-19 on informal economy and the labor issues which has resulted due to that, and also the lockdown which happened. So today we have two of our esteemed panelists. We have Dr. Anupam Tyagi. He is an economist and expert in health economics and sustainable development and many other streams. He has doctorate from University of Utah, USA. And on the other side, we have Dr. Vinod Sen. He's faculty at Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, and he works in the area of informal economy and labor issues. Before starting the webinar, this is just for information for our audience that there is myself, Dr. Sazzad Parwez. I'm part of the School of Development Studies. I work as an assistant professor here. And very recently in the national NIF ranking, our university has got a pretty good ranking of 65. So that is a good, decent jump in terms of quality. In terms of it is also reflected on the kind of a teaching or academic activity and the research we conduct. So here we start our webinar. Professor Vinod Sen and Professor Anupam Tyagi, first of all, welcome to you, both of you, for joining us. Sir, we are going to start the webinar with Dr. Anupam Tyagi. And we would like to understand what he thinks and what is his opinion in terms of impact of COVID-19 and the then resultant lockdown on informal economy. Sir, can you express your broad opinion? What happened and what is the issue and how everything has panned out in terms of impact which we have seen or we have witnessed in the informal economy?
Thank you, Sazzad. First of all, we have to understand how informal is India's economy. So nearly 90% of our labor force works in an informal economy. If you look at, that's a very relaxed definition. Or if you take a very relaxed definition of what informal is, which means no social security benefits, no PF, none of that. Mm-hmm. So only 2 to 3% of India's labor force works in formal economy where they have all social security benefits like pension, provident fund, gratuity, health benefits, healthcare benefits, maternity leave, paternity leave. So these kind of benefits and job security where they have a contract of more than 3 years, 3 or more years, is only 2 to 3% of the workforce. So so we have to understand how informal is India's economy. The formal part is very minuscule, only 2 to 3%. And there has been substantial layoffs, mostly in informal sector, which means more than 90% of workforce in India. And I was looking at some estimates. So there have been, let's see, so the Azim Premji University did a survey, and among those who reported to be working in February 2020, 66% reported they lost employment in lockdown. Okay. So from February to lockdown, 66% people lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. According to the Azim Premji University labor survey. So that is what I will leave you with, and we can have more discussion. So just my opening comment is, we have substantial portion of our labor force that has been laid off, and they have returned to their villages. Some of them may not have returned to their villages, and restarting the economy is also going to be difficult. Like it was, shutting down was difficult, restarting will be difficult because now you have to get all that labor back to the employers, and many of them may not be coming back to their employers. I'll let you people comment on this and then we can go further.
Okay, so thank you, Professor Tyagi. Now I'll go to Dr. Vinod Sen. Sir, what is your broad understanding and your opinion about the lockdown and its impact on the informal economy and labor issues in particular?
Okay, so thanks, Sazzad and sir. What I senses from that COVID-19 lockdown, the informal sector economy, sir has pointed out, 90%. Some of the sources are saying, and 93%. Basically, that the trade union sources are saying that 93% of workforce, they are working in the informal sector. Remaining 7% people are working with the formal employment. Maybe we can tell that state government, central government, and private limited company. But sir has rightly pointed out that they have some kind of the social securities like PF, everything, that job security is there. So basically, what I wanted to say that the informal sector, basically most of they are doing the physical work. They were basically there are two type of work, that mental work and physical work. That informal sector economy, most of the people are doing mainly that we can say informal sector. So basically, they have some characteristics. Basically, they are basically unorganized worker. Unorganized worker, if they are unorganized, then they don't have any power to bargain. So they cannot bargain for their wages. They cannot bargain for their basic facility at workplace. They cannot bargain for the social benefits. If something must happen, and they have to just silently bear with that. So basically, that informal sector labor is also very much ignorant about the rules and regulations, what are the policies are there, what kind of benefit they are entitled, and what are the role or responsibility of the employer to the worker. So basically, we can say that informal economy is basically those who are working in the agriculture labor, those who are working with the construction worker, those who are especially doing the working from the home-based worker or street vendor, we can say the best baker or domestic worker. All these things, they are coming under the informal activity. So that informal activities basically, so they have been because of the COVID, that on 24th of March, that India has done the lockdown, so that they have hardly given the 4 hours to decide. So that's very less time. We can see the experience from the Italy. Italy has given the proper time, so they can just prepare. Those who want to stay in their destination, they can stay, or they can go to reverse their migration or the places. So now we have to see the contributions of informal sector into the economy. In terms of the employment, we have talked that more than 90% of people are working in the informal economy. But in terms of the GDP, 55 to 58% of the GDP is coming from the informal sector, and that the same time that that labor is also a consumer. So they are also not paying the direct tax, but indirect taxes also they are paying. They are also substantially contributing as a revenue. So taxpayer is also there. So now we can see that COVID-19, which has been detected in the Wuhan city of the China, that entire economy has been affected. So entire economy, almost 210 country are affected by that COVID-19. So that in our Indian economy, not a single sector is left out. Maybe it's transportation, maybe it's banking, maybe it's education, maybe it's oil and gas, hotel, agriculture. Everything is affected by the COVID-19. So, but the most that effect is we can see in the informal economy. That informal worker is the most the effect on the informal sector. So we know that global pandemics. So we have also a global pandemics in 1929. That great recession which has been started from the United States. Now that is started from the China. So it has affected the entire economy. Recently in 2008-9, we have again observed a global recession that is the financial recession is again initiated from the failure of the banking system in China. So now what I want to try that informal sector in 8 November 2016, when the demonetization has been done, that time our that informal economy, that small scale and cottage industries has been affected because of the adequate crisis in the economy. So we can see that how that Indian economy recently affected by that COVID. In 2015-16, that growth rate of the Indian economy was around 8.2%. In 2018-19, that growth rate has come down to 4.2%. It clearly says that our growth rate has been come down half. It's just 8 to 4%. So that growth rate is basically, if we can see in quarter wise, in last quarter, that growth rate was only 3.1%. But in last 7 quarters, our growth rate was continuously declining. And now it has been predicted by the IMF in 2020-21, our economic growth rate will be 0.5%, which will be lowest in last 11 years. Now we can also see, now we are talking about the informal economy, so we have to see how that our basically unemployment rate will be there. We have a data like 1977-78. That time our unemployment rate was 2.5%. In 2004-5, that unemployment rates come down to 2.2%. But when we see the data of 2018-19, the unemployment rate was 6.2%, which is highest in last 45 years. But when we see the data of COVID, in basically made that unemployment rate has reached to 23.5%. Now it is now latest data is coming out that around that unemployment rate is going to be 35. So that more number of people are going to lose the job. Still, that some of the companies recently today that news was there that people working with the Paisa Bazaar, they 1,500 people has lost job. Thousands of people have lost the job in the print media or visual media. So basically now we can see the impact on employment. So we have a data like IMF is reporting that 164 billion people are working in the basically informal sector entire world. But when we see the data, they have that IMF is saying that 17.2 million people are working in the informal sectors of India. So out of that, as per the economic survey of 2018-19, only 13% people have getting the either registered or getting the benefit of the social security benefit. If people are registered, it doesn't mean that they are getting the benefit of social security benefit. So these are the informal sector workers. They are doing the difficult and very much dangerous and dirty work. And these are the workers, they are the least paid. They are the worker has been most affected. So now the massive unemployment is there because of that COVID-19, this thing. At the same time, we have seen that lack of implementations of labor law is there. And we have also seen that government has not done what we are expecting from the government they can do for the informal sector. Though they have given a 20 lakhs crore package for the COVID-19 as a relief package, but when we see that how much direct cash transfer is reaching to the worker, that is the maybe the topic for the further analysis. Now we have this thing basically another data that labor participation. That labor participation basically done by the National Statistics Office, and they are saying that it's predicted that labor participation is going to be declined maybe above the 35%. So now another issues we have to talk about that reverse migration. We know that people are migrating. People are migrating maybe for the basically there are two type of migration, that internal migration or external. So that reverse migration is basically internal migration. So people are migrating from urban areas to rural areas, and that the migration initially that rural to urban migration, there were the two types, that permanent migration and seasonal migration. So those people have done the permanent migration, now they are coming to the reverse migration, then that is the problem. So that's CMI basically given a data that 40 million people are basically migrant workers in India. And there's another data is saying that around, as per the census of 2011, 43.4 crore people have migrated to the various purpose. Out of that, 10.7 crore people has migrated only for job. So this is the, and so we can see that last from 2001 to 2011 data that people have, we can see the increase in the population. So the urban population has increased more than rural population. That urban population, we know that their birth rate is less. Despite that, because of the migration, because of that rural urban migration, that urban population in that particular decade from 2001 to 2011 that has been migrated. So, sir, if you can add something, then I can also. So, I just want your opinion.
Dr. Vinod Sen, thank you very much for your elaborated and extended overview on the impact of COVID-19 on economy. You have almost covered everything we could have in 1 hour. So coming back to Dr. Anupam Tyagi, sir, when lockdown was announced and then there were two major sectors which got hugely impacted in terms of my understanding. One was the MSME sector, another was agriculture sector. Agriculture sector was kept away from the lockdown largely. So impact was there, but one can say the impact was marginal in the agriculture sector. But coming back to the MSME and agriculture both talking together, what do you think about the kind of impact lockdown had on the MSME sector, which employed a huge number of workers in terms of also the monetary loss and also in terms of employment and livelihood loss? Sir.
I think India's economy was not doing well at all, even before COVID-19. So even before COVID-19, the growth rate has gone down from 8.3% a few years ago to about little above 4% recently. So there was already a problem in the Indian economy. Mm-hmm. And COVID-19 has made it worse. And so for example, you're correct that MSME and agriculture has taken a brunt of this COVID lockdown. A lot of farmers are reporting, I was looking at some number, about 60% of farmers, or maybe more than that actually, in the survey, Azim Premji University survey again, 85% farmers were unable to sell their product at full price, which means they also had problems in paying the workers. Okay, and many states had not harvested the crop. So when the lockdown started, so they in many states they had not harvested the crop. So many of their so they still had a demand for labor during harvest season, but laborers were returning back to their villages because of lockdown. So that created a serious problem in agriculture. And MSME has traditionally been a large employer of casual workers, informal sector workers. And they've been affected. Government, I think, has not done enough to support informal workers. One of the ways could have been to support their wages. Because MSMEs, a lot of them are, other than very small enterprises, most of them are in the formal sector. They are formal organizations employing informal labor. Do you understand? So the labor contract is informal, without security, without benefits, etc. Yes. But the firm is actually in the formal sector.
It's a formal sector, yes.
Yes. So government could have provided them support, wage support. Like in UK and Denmark, those countries have provided 80 to 75% of wage support to firms, saying if you don't lay off these workers, we will give you so much money to support their wage bill. Indian government has not done that. So that has created a lot of problems. So it's a lot of layoffs in these small sectors, and it's been devastating to those firms as well as to the laborers. So Indian government could have provided direct support for wage bill. That they have not done.
Yes. Sir, talking about the support, if I come back to MSME as in the fiscal stimulus, which was 20 lakh crore, around 6 lakh crore was allocated to the MSME, but it was largely in terms of the loan.
Sazzad, I would like to add something.
Government was playing. If go ahead.
Sazzad, can I add something? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. So basically, you asked about the agriculture. So in this agriculture section, I would like to add. We know that lockdown has initiated in March. So this basically the March is a period when some of the agriculture activity lies. Some of the crop are going to sown. Some of the crops are on the final stage of the production. So this is the time when a lot of the machinery or a lot of the labor requires. So because of that unplanned lockdown, that machinery, especially that heavy machinery like harvester, that could not be moved. Later that government has come with the notification that because of that agriculture is the peak, so that machinery will be allowed without any problem. But another point I want to make that farmer has faced a lot of difficulties because of that non-movement of the labor. Some of the labor has already migrated, but they have migrated because of that public transportation was not there. So they have just stuck which place they are there. So what happened that farmer was not getting the labor, so they have to pay more wages to the labor, and because of they could not do the process on time, so some of the crop has been lost. That was the another issues. So then the another issue I would like to add about the migrant this thing, the model of the development. So especially that another issue of that labor, the model of development, I'm especially talking maybe the post liberalization period, so that we have adopted the neoliberal model of the development. So especially we can say that the China model of the development, because what we require, we need a labor, very cheap labor. So we don't have to pay basically, and that model of the development required more FDI. When FDI is coming, then we have to, that especially that foreign direct investment, then we have to liberalize our labor law. So basically what happening, the trade union movement has been maybe declined, that its trade unions movement has become ineffective. If we can see the data, the total number of workers, only 4 to 5% of the laborers, basically they are the part of the unions. So why they basically that very less participation? Because that that structure is there, that is not supportive to the movement, that trade union movement, and because they think that trade unions is movement like it's not very much affected. So even the effect is slowly is going decline. So what I want to make a point here, that the neoliberal model argument that that labor should be given only that much way that is up to sufficient for their livelihood, maybe can the substance wages. So they are considering labor as a factor of production. When we say that labor as a factor of production, it means they are considering labor as a commodity. They are not considering labor as a human being. They want that commodity, it should be have some price, but that price should be as per their marginal physical productivity of labor. But that marginal physical productivity of labor is not going to be considered. There are some other things which are going to determine the wages. So another thing is there, why that informal sector in trouble right now in COVID-19. So first important factor is that because that labor don't have any past saving. Saving is very important whenever there is the crisis. At least it is ideal key if any crisis, that any labor or any employee or maybe salaried or wage, at least 3 months salary they should have, so they can survive or meet any crisis. but they are getting that informal worker is basically they are going every day on work. They're getting the wage either daily basis or weekly basis, fortnight or monthly basis. But by the end of the day or end of the month, their salary is going to be finished. So they don't have any savings. So that basically that less saving because they are getting very less wage. That wage is not as per fixed by the state government or central government. The minimum wage fixed by the rules that act, they are not getting it. So another thing that they are also excluded from the financial sector. It means that though that many account has been opened under the Jan Dhan Yojana, but the data is saying that more than 65% of the account is not operational last 6 months. That's the current status of the Jan Dhan Yojana. So basically, especially that informal sector worker, they are getting the wages in cash, so they don't require any this thing. Or even that going to the bank or coming back from the bank, it's also has some cost. Traveling cost is there, their time is going to there, that laborers, that migrant labor is basically, they are not very well educated. So they are also facing the problem to operating the bank. So when we say that even that government of India has done the appeal that their employer, their contractor, their middleman, or maybe the owner of the company, they have to take care of those who are associated with them. But that appeal doesn't work it. So the contractor, middleman, what they have done, they have given 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, something. But they said, you just take that money and go back to your destination, your native place. Come back when things are difficult. But what happened that the transportation has been completely stopped. Road and rail transport and air transportation. So basically, they are going to use that road and railways. So that is the thing they can afford it, but that was closed. So we have seen that labor has have to basically walk thousands of kilometers to reach, and we know that some have been died because of the food, some of them died because of the hunger, or some of them have met the road accident. That was the issues. So my submission is that we need the urgent attention of the reverse migration. First, we have to save them from the hungers, because they have come back to the rural area. Rural area have their own limitations. How they see the agriculture work is the seasonal. So there were already sufficient labor to perform that agricultural activities. The extra people has reached to the agriculture, though some of them have been accommodated in the agriculture, but rest that millions of people will do it. So first we have to save them from the hunger. So the role of the government will be very important. Whenever there is any crisis, government has to come forward. Any economic crisis, any natural calamity, maybe anything has happened, the government. So government has come up, government has done something. They have given the 500 rupees, they have given 5 kg of maybe the rice or wheat or 1 kg of chana, but for the month. But I strongly feel that if migrant labor, most of they are doing that very difficult and work. So their diet is very high. So 5 kg of rice or 5 kg of wheat or 1 kg of chana is not sufficient for a month. That could be increased. There's the need to give direct transfer. Direct transfer, maybe we know that Nobel laureate Professor Abhijit Banerjee, another eminent economic professor Kaushik Basu, they have strongly advocated there should be the universal basic income. UBI, they are saying it, that should be implemented. Minimum 10,000 rupees must be given monthly basis those who have affected. I can take an example of America. What America has done? America has given $1,000. If we can convert into the Indian currency, it becomes 76,000. Each affected person has been given the $1,000 for the survival. Same thing has been also done by the Japan. So we have to also do this thing, that 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees is not sufficient to survive for the entire month. So another thing is there, we have to provide the employment. Employment in the rural area, we know that that MG Narega is working very well. government has also given that 40,000 crore rupees additional to with this thing. But the wages they are giving is around 210 rupees. That is not sufficient per day. At least 300 rupees per day that MG Narega worker should be get it, or the 100 days of employment is also not sufficient. I think there should be minimum 200 days of employment in a year under the NREGA, so that problem of unemployment, and we have to also develop the agro-based industries. We have to also develop the maybe the forestry where we can get the Ayurvedic medicines, or that can be used. And another thing I want to say, we need to provide the shelter also, because that permanent migration, if they are coming back to the rural area, where they will stay, and that clean water. Then another important issues with the reverse migration is that they have migrated with the family. The reverse migration is also with the family. With the family, children's movements are also there. The girl child is there, male child is also there. So the both are, they may be attending their schools. Because of the reverse migration, their education has been lost. Because of their financial crisis, their bad economic conditions, they are not going back to their workplace. Their year of education is going to be lost, or some of them may be forced to the work as a child labor, or maybe they will be working somewhere as a domestic helper, all these things. I will also add that in the informal sector, there are around 90, in the home-based industries, we can say that home-based work, around 90% are the women. So women is basically what they are going to do. They are working as a aya, they are working as a maid. Whatever the work the women informal workers perform, this is basically, they have to be there at workplace. The informal sector worker, they cannot do that work from the home. So if they are not attending their job, they are not going to be paid. Though some of the employees, they have given the money, but not all. So that women issues is basically we have to look seriously. Another things, what was the reason for the reverse migration? Despite that government of India has done the appeal, and they said that pandemics is basically for the 21 days or maybe the couple of months, why that people has come back. So basically we know that migration is basically, there are the two factors for the migration, pull factor and push factors. So basically in this, that push factor has worked. That push factor because they have lost the employment, they don't have any reason to stay there, they don't have any income, so it is very difficult to pay the rent, it is very difficult to get the food items. So they have become the jobless, no income, no money for house rent. And now in the crisis, they have attracted towards their native land, or maybe their whatever. So that these are the reason that people has been taking the decisions, and they have to go back their hometown. At least they will not die because of the starvation, because of food. So 40 crores of people, that ILO is monitor committee report is there, is saying that 40 crore people will be come under the below poverty line because of that reverse migration only.
Sure, sir. Yes, sure. I would like to come back to Dr. Anupam.
Okay.
As I was basically of COVID-19 or the MSME, as the government had talked about 6 lakh crore to be allocated in terms of the loan guarantor, means the idea is that some MSME kind of business and take a loan, and the demand is less. How one can encourage with such kind of encourage MSME to spend more, to expand more in terms of business activity, and isn't it? It will create a situation of moral hazard where the government is full
Sazzad, your voice is not
the
coming properly.
loan.
Yeah, there's a problem with that.
And there is no incentive. Professor Tyagi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Professor,
There is some problem in the audio though.
Okay, I will respond a little bit by the time that problem. See that SME sector that the government has provided some incentive. Government is ready to provide the loan, even the loan without guarantee. So I would like to quote a SBI chairman. He has said, we have a sufficient fund.
yeah.
We are ready to lend the money, but people are not coming for the money. So basically, they don't have any faith in the economy right now. They don't want to take any risk. That's another factor. So they have to send back the money to the RBI because they have to also pay the interest. So in that current, that is given situation, because a lot of uncertainty is there, people see nowadays we can say that car is not going to be sold. We know that flats are lying empty. We know that consumer durable goods they are also not going to be sold because that people. What are the demand is there? People are demanding the essential commodity. That essential commodity food items, a little bit clothes. These are the things are going to be sell. Vegetable, all this thing.
Dr. Vinod Sen, if I may interrupt, I think Professor Anupam Tyagi is back.
Yes.
Okay.
I was asking you about the 6 lakh crore MSME and the moral hazard and lack of efficiency and the production quality it may end up. So what do you think about that?
I think making loans available to firms is not helpful when they don't have enough demand. Okay. So a lot of demand has also vanished from the market. So MSME saying that we can offer you cheap loans or no interest loan doesn't make sense. What would have been really beneficial is providing some wage support and let that money flow to workers and let them be on the rolls of the MSME till you keep these workers on your rolls. We'll give you some money to support their wages, and let the wages go. Some of these wages go to the worker and create demand, because it's also a problem of demand during this time. Other than essentials, most people will be saving money, precautionary savings, but we don't. So that's I think Indian government has not paid much attention to that. They think there is a moral hazard that some firms will take the government money and not give it to the workers. I have not even seen that discussion. That discussion should have been part of the policy dialogue about what to do with COVID-19, providing some wage support. So that's a serious problem. And MSME are also vulnerable to workers who have left with firm-specific skills, firm-specific human capital. So some worker who's worked in a firm for a long time acquires human capital that is specific to that firm's work. And if that worker leaves during COVID-19, he may not come back to the same firm. Okay. If he comes back to the same firm, good. But if he does not come back to the same firm, the firm has also lost a well-trained worker who had firm-specific human capital. So, so there should have been some way of keeping these people on the rolls of MSME firms, so that they don't lose firm-specific human capital. They can provide wage support, and it is easy to re-employ these workers as the lockdown gets over, which is happening now.
Okay. Yeah, sir, as already it has been mentioned by Dr. Vinod Sen, the kind of impact lockdown and everything had on the woman and the paid woman labor, basically. I would like to understand from you, too, I would like to know your opinion, that it is always perceived that whenever anything goes wrong in any firm on the economy, it is the woman who face the brunt first. They are first one to lay off.
Actually, I have not seen that data, but maybe that's true. I don't know.
And also
what is true is that a lot of women are informal workers. This is true, that a lot of women are informal workers, or their share in informal workers is high. Hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So also in urban setting, lot of small jobs, especially the maid and many other kind of jobs are done by women, and they're also being laid off, and due to the stigma, due to the fear among the people and all that. So what do you think about the kind of impact these women are going to face in their household in terms of the income?
I think it's a serious issue because as it is, most of them don't have huge savings. They're hand to mouth. So not getting even let's say 2 or 3 months income is a huge setback on them. And I was looking at some data that comes from some research that Rohini Pandey and colleagues are doing. And they're saying direct income transfers are good.
Okay.
But however, out of 326 million women who are below poverty line, more than half are excluded from PM Jan Dhan Yojana linked cash transfers. So the cash transfers are happening due to the PM Jan Dhan Yojana linked accounts. But more than half of women who are below poverty line cannot access them. And 26% of women are away 5 kilometers or more from the closest banking point. So even if the government transfers the funds to their account, it is difficult for them to access those accounts.
Yeah, true. Moving on, as I would like to ask this question to the Dr. Vinod Sen. You have talked about the reverse migration, and many studies and many estimates, or also the opinion expressed by various economists and sociologists, they suggest that the people who had gone back and the reverse migration, about 30 to 40% of those workers will never come back where they were working earlier. So I would like to know what you think about this particular situation and the lack of skilled manpower and how it will impact their native place in terms of the lack of jobs availability and also the economic impact over there.
Okay. See that reverse migration is going to affect both the destination where they are previously working and the destination they are right now. So basically, the premises they have working now, because of that unlock one period, that some of the that industries, some of the factories are started working. What happening, especially in Punjab, Ludhiana, all this place. So they are feeling the shortage of skilled worker. So what they are seeking now, they are sending the vehicles to the rural areas. They are continuous touch with the migrant worker. They are giving the assurance, but still that worker is not ready to come back. So the problem is that now they have to again train the new persons. That required some cost that will also affect the productivity. So production and productivity both are going to be affected because of that reverse migration. Now come back to the rural areas. Rural areas is already, we know that rural areas basically is that 55% of people are working in the rural areas. So basically that our purpose that already that agriculture is overburdened. Now because of the introduction of the technology, more people are going to be lost the job in the rural areas. So that already that burden was there, now they are the extra burden because that people are, because of that LPG policies, whatever our cottage and small scale industries were running in the rural area, that has been abolished, that has been finished by the competition. So that is the great question among us, how to accommodate that reverse migrant, how we are going to provide the employment, how we are going to provide them the shelter, how we are going to provide the health facility, how can we provide the shelter, clean water, electricity, everything, how we can provide it. So that agriculture is going to be overburdened. When that overburden is there, that is also, the productivity is also going to be increased, but the margin productivity of the labor will be going to decline. So that disguise and unemployment is going to be increased. So now there's the only one hope that we have to give more importance to the MG-Narega, or we have to develop the agro-based industries where more number of the labor can be accommodated, and whatever the given resources, rural-based resources, we have to develop this type of small-scale and cottage industries so that whatever the people has come back through the reverse migration, they can be accommodated in the rural area.
True, right. Now I would like to come back to Dr. Anupam Tyagi, as it is already mentioned an opinion by the Dr. Vinod Sen. What do you think the role would be of MG Narega in terms of rural economy for near future? Maybe it is for 6 months or maybe a year, because it seems to be the only savior we have at the moment.
Yes, exactly. So MG Narega, a lot of people who have returned, some of them who are even graduates or postgraduates have found work in MG Narega.
Yeah, true.
Okay, because I was seeing a TV report where some graduate or master's person is finding work in MG Narega. So it is important to provide buffer to rural workers, MG Narega, and provide them easy cash transfers instead of transferring to their account, maybe even do cash payments. Some researchers are saying don't do electronic transfers, do cash payments to MG Narega workers, and open more work site. There has also been some suggestions about having a similar scheme in urban areas, because even in urban areas, a lot of informal workers are there, and they are not going back to their villages. So they can find work in urban areas, maybe related to local urban bodies like fixing toilets, water works, doing some construction work like that. Having these schemes in rural and urban areas is very essential for our country, and particularly for workers in informal sector. Because even in MG Narega, and also extend, Sen was saying, it should not be 100 days. Maybe even now it is possible to extend it to 150 days if there is a national calamity. But they should actually extend MG Narega work. Some people are saying, and MG Narega has a clause that if someone applies for work and work is not available for that person, after 15 days they will give half of MG Narega wage as unemployment insurance to that person. So these type of schemes are absolutely essential for absorbing whatever labor is returning to rural areas, and also in urban areas. Having a similar employment guarantee scheme will be really helpful.
Sir,
I would like to suggest something.
Please.
Yeah. Basically, see, for dealing with the reverse migration, there should be a universal unemployment allowances. We know that different government is paying, somebody is paying 900 rupees, somebody is paying 1500, UP government is paying 3000 rupees. So that is long-term solution we can propose. Okay, there should be the universal unemployment allowances to the persons. So, those who have lost their job, so they can be given. Another thing I want to say that because of that COVID, some of the state government has changed their labor laws. Especially, we can talk about the Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh has done the amendment in the labor laws.
MP and also
Gujarat also have done. Rajasthan has also done. But UP government has gone so far. Like they have abolished the labor laws. Whatever the labor law, they are not applicable for the next 3 years. So basically, they have provided tools to the industrialist, to the capitalist for the exploitations of informal worker. Another thing is that now that minimum number of working hours has been increased from 8 to 12 hours. So 2 states has been done this thing. So basically, it's now already that that unemployment rate is reaching to around 35%. So the work required 3%, now only 2% are capable of doing it, because of that working hours has been increased. So that working hours increase will be basically is going to exaggerate the problem of the unemployment. So now what that employer is demanding is that they want the labor law based on the UP model. So the next 3 years, there should be no labor law, but there are the other things like that government can, instead of going to amendment in the labor law or abolition of the labor law, there should be some other incentive, like they should be given some relaxation in the taxes, or maybe next year they can give the tax holiday. You come, you invest, you produce, you provide the employment, and they can be given the free electricity, they can giving the free land. So other things can be provided as an incentive despite relaxing or maybe amendment in the labor law. Then the simple economics is that if we are going to create the effective demand, sir has already talked about the lack of demand in the economy. Effective demand, basically we require that lot of investment from the government. Government has to come forward. They have to do the, apart from the monetary policies, we like that physical policies should be also effective. So that government has to done the investment, instead of selling the government this thing, or instead of giving the airport on lease. So government has to operate. Government has to also start some new activities where people can get the employment. So when effective demand is there, people, so that production will take place. Production, then basically people will get the new employment. Then employment is there, people will get the salary. Their purchasing power is going to be increased. Once purchasing power is going to increase, that effective demand will be take place. That will be incentive for the producers. Their profit is going to be increased, and they will again increase the level of production, or scale of production will be increased. So simple economics is that we have to give the money to the people, so people will demand. So automatically all that production process is going to be increased. So that's how our economy will generate. So sir has pointed to say that we need to get the direct cash transfer. So universal basic income or universal unemployment allowances will be a tools for providing the purchasing power to the people.
So, sir, we are almost come to the end, and we are in the last 5 minutes, and we have received around 75 questions into our audience. And there are various kind of questions. I think most of the questions already I've just gone through them in a glance, and most of the questions already been answered by you. But some of the question I will throw in next 5 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
First question I would asking Dr. Anupam Tyagi, one government of India, that is Garib Kalyan Yojgar Abhiyan, which is basically meant for the state of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan, and one or two more states. And they have identified around 116 districts in which they have provided 25,000 workers in each district. Around 125 days of work, it's like another form of MG Narega. So what do you think about in which government of India will spend around 50,000 crore rupees? This particular scheme that is known as Garib Kalyan Rozgar Abhiyan in 116 districts of these 4, 5 or 6 states. So what do you think about this particular scheme?
It's a good idea, but it's very limited.
Okay.
It's a good idea. I think it's a good idea too. And also support person. So what you were saying was, it's not firms versus the workers. A lot of firms are also suffering. So and a lot of private consumption has gone away from the market. So if you look at India's economic growth, a lot of growth has come from private consumption. Private consumption is an important part of Indian economy.
Yes.
So finding ways to support private consumption is very important, and direct cash transfers is one good way of doing it.
As we've already noted, both Vinod Sen and you would noted that government had not done as much as they could have done if one considers the examples from even USA or Germany or Vietnam or Japan and many other countries. I would like to ask both of you, can you people can give me one particular thing except the direct transfer of money which we already discussed? What government could have done to handle the economy better? First, I would like to respond from the Anupam Tyagi.
I think while opening up, supporting construction sector, which has a lot of forward and backward linkages in the economy, is very important. So identifying a sector which has a lot of forward and backward linkages in the economy is important, and construction is one such sector. It also employs a lot of informal labor. So providing ways to improve construction activity both in rural areas and urban areas can be a good way of opening up.
And
I can suggest.
Can you?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I can suggest a couple of things. First, I can suggest there is a need to aggressive implementations of MG Narega to deal the current situations. Okay. So, and another thing I can say that strengthen the public distribution system, because that public distribution system, especially that
food support,
food support. So basically, that government has come with a nice idea that whatever the ration card, APL, BPL, or yellow card, green card, whatever, it is applicable, and that portability is there. That Madhya Pradesh ration card can be used in the Maharashtra card can be used in the south. So that is there.
Many people don't have ration cards, so there should be some way of including people who don't have ration cards.
Yeah,
I think that's an important issue for people who are very, very poor.
Yeah. That is already government has given it next 3 years, those whoever want the food under the public distribution system, they cannot be denied.
Yes,
that is there,
that's a good thing.
Yeah. So, but another thing is that we want that government expenditure should be on the social sector. We need to strengthen our social sectors. We have to put on education, on social securities, and pension. Like this thing also we have to need to strengthen for the future. And another thing is that I would like to add there the absence of accurate data. Though that Census of India, NSSO, maybe the CSO, the NCR, there are a lot of government agencies which are conducting the data, but on migrant labor we don't have any authentic data. And the data is whatever the data we have, which data is very old. So if we have the accurate data, then planning and execution will be a little bit good.
I think everyone wants free money. Nobody says no to money. So it is important for government to think of to whom to give the money.
Yeah.
And I think supporting the most vulnerable portion of India's population is very important. Supporting people who don't have enough to eat is very important.
Sir, among the many questions which I have received, one question is that they also want to know the impact of COVID-19 and the lockdown on formal economy. So I would request Anupam sir, just take 1 minute and just elaborate as what is the impact on the formal economy.
So formal economy, if you people who are in the formal economy, if you mean firms that are registered,
yes,
is widespread. Some have done better, some have not done better, but there is no wage support from government. So it depends. It basically depends on the firms how they are dealing with it. Because government has not come out to support them, formal economy, other than loan support.
Yeah. Sir, another issue that it already pointed out by Dr. Vinod Sen regarding the abolishing the labor laws or going away from the labor laws, like states like Uttar Pradesh and Karnataka, they have completely gone away. It seems like states or the country is going back to the idea it is only the cheap labor which can attract investment. It is not the skill, it is not the efficiency, it is not the environment, it is not the institutional structure which need to be developed in order to invite or in order to attract investment. So going back to this particular idea of cheap labor or cheap labor to the industry, how feasible you think it is it is possible to attract investment based on that? How long?
I think in India there is a shortage of skilled labor. So long as skilled labor is concerned, they don't really have to worry about being fired and being laid off. Because there is actually a shortage of skilled labor in India.
True, true.
There is a lot of labor, but shortage of skilled labor, particularly specific to certain industries. So, and as it is, most of the labor is informal. To firing, laying off people or letting them go is not difficult, even with labor laws. Look, even under current labor law, it's okay. It's quite possible for firms to let labor go. However, what they really want is good skilled labor. So they're not going to fire good skilled labor because there is a shortage.
Yeah, sir, we're already overshooting the time, and this will be my last question to both of you. First, I would ask this question to Anupam sir. Anupam sir, what you think and how how you see the Indian economy, or especially the informal sector, doing in next 6 months to 1 year or maybe 2 years, considering in the background of what already has happened and what government is doing and what kind of steps they have taken?
I think some people have a really hard time to look forward to, frankly speaking, because they have moved away. A lot of them have moved away from where their employment is. So they will need to get back to places where their employment is, or work in MG Narega. So MG Narega is not really, it's a buffer. MG Narega is not really meant to be long-time work arrangement.
It's not a sustainable idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Vinod Sen, what how you see the economy?
How that informal economy and labor for next 6 months?
Maybe
first is depend. Yeah, 1 year of this is depend on the how fast we are recovering from the COVID-19, because we know that around 3,82,000 cases were there. That cases are, people are saying it will be go up to 30 lakh or something. How much time it will take, and how the economy industries are working, what will be the government policies, what kind of rules and regulations are coming. So basically that informal sectors is depend on all this thing. See, this the lockdown first is there, now lockdown second is will be coming. So basically that is depend that how that economic activity is going to be take place. So at this point we can say that it's very difficult time for the informal worker. Next 6 months, they're very difficult to find out their job. Some of the basically industry, those producing the essential commodities, they will first start working. People working like hotels and dhaba, then malls. It will take some time to operate, and that more people will be going to be lose the job in near future, and that in terms of the employability, that time is very difficult, and we have to wait and watch.
I think because of cell phones, it will be easier to reach workers and call them back for a lot of industries. So so it is important for workers to make sure they have a cell phone number and enough money in their account so their phones are operational. So that is one of the things. And I think it's difficult time ahead for a lot of people in informal sector. They also may need retraining. So having good retraining programs, for example, to retrain them to work as health workers, can be helpful.
Because employment thing is all depend on the economic activities, how economy is going to be progress, what are the growth rate. what is the status of maybe the economy. So moreover, that prediction is coming that our GDP growth rate will be 0.5 or it will be the negative. So basically that is all is going to affect our employment, especially that informal sector economy. Very tough time is coming. Because most of the company, those who has given the salary, full salary or half salary without work, we can see that even that people working with the formal sector, their DA has been increased. They are not going to get the next increment. So that moreover that income will be the same. If that inflation is going to become, then it will be again difficult. People has to compromise with their essential expenditure also.
True. From this particular statement by Dr. Vinod Sen and also Dr. Anupam Tyagi, economy seems to be in a dismal situation, and the future also seems to be quite gloomy and doomed at the moment. But hopefully government may take some steps and we come out of the pandemic as soon as possible, and economic activity start happening and consumption grows and the investment take place and economy can come back to the its feet. But it will never happen in isolation. Certain initiative need to be taken, concrete initiative in terms of expenditure, in terms of both fiscal and monetary policy, and also how government can encourage businesses and also the citizen to be part of the activity in the atmosphere of the fear. So having said that, I would like to thank both of our panelists, esteemed speaker Dr. Anupam Tyagi from Presidency University of Bangalore and Dr. Vinod Sen from Indira Gandhi National Tribal University for coming to this particular webinar and sharing their opinion. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
And
thank you very much, Dr. Sazzad Parwez.
Thank you very much, sir. And sir, see you soon. Thank you, sir.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.